Morning, everybody. It's a very pleasant morning, and I welcome you all to this lecture on emotional intelligence. I think emotional intelligence is a concept, a theory, which I think everybody is aware of, at least, if not having an in-depth knowledge of it, at least they would have heard about the term emotional intelligence. My lecture today is going to be on emotional intelligence, to be in particular emotional regulation, one of the components of emotional intelligence. Well, for all those who have not or who do not have a knowledge of emotional intelligence, I would like to start with the definition of emotional intelligence. I'm not going to go by the definition that's been given by several people. I mean, there are several models of emotional intelligence. To name at least three major models. So I'm not going into each and every definition. It just slightly varies. But then generally, emotional intelligence means, or emotional intelligence stands for, understanding and awareness of one's own. That is, understanding your own emotions, identifying emotions in yourself, even as you are emoting, even as you are going through the process of emotions. You identify and you label them as, this is what I am feeling right now. So if you are able to be aware of the emotions in yourself and the emotions in others, that's important, right? So emotions in yourself and emotions in others as well. When you are aware of emotions in yourself and others and put this knowledge to the best use, then that is known as emotional intelligence. Now here is the catch. Like when we say like having this knowledge and putting that to the best use, how best do you put it across? I mean, how do you use your emotional intelligence? Even when I say that how do we use the emotional intelligence, the question comes that it can be used both positively and negatively. And that is what my lecture is going to be about today. So for this, I am taking one aspect of emotional intelligence, the emotion regulation. Today I am predominantly concentrating on one of the models, the ability model that's been given by Mayer and Salovey in 1990. The ability model concentrates on four components. One is emotional awareness, the second one is emotional facilitation of thought, the third one is emotional understanding, and the fourth one is emotional management or emotional regulation. To briefly look at what these four levels stand for, so that it gives you an idea when we decide or when we discuss on emotion regulation. The first one, emotional awareness, is, as I told you, being aware of, being able to identify the emotions in yourself and others. The second one is emotional facilitation of thought. Now this is the second level. Once you're able to identify your emotions, say for example, today I'm feeling a little depressed, I'm feeling a little lonely, sad. So what do? Automatically, once we identify this emotion, then we switch over to pleasanter times, the good times that I had with my friends, with my family. So when I think of those good times, when I facilitate my thought and I move my emotions and I move my thoughts to a better time, then I'm able to, Then I'm able to manage the sadness or manage the lonely feeling that I have. So that would be emotional facilitation of thought. Consciously, I move my emotions to something else. The third one would be emotional understanding. Now this is the third level, the next level of emotional facilitation. Now once you are able to move your emotions from one to another, you should be able to identify the shift as well. Sometimes it happens without our knowledge. Say for example, intense jealousy can move on to hatred. Sometimes intense love also can turn into jealousy or hatred. So it depends on the situation, depends on the persons involved. So emotional understanding is being aware of moving of emotions from one to another. And of course, when you have all these three, emotional awareness, emotional facilitation of thought, and emotional understanding, the fourth one or the final one, emotional management, becomes easy. Thus, we can also term it as emotion regulation. Now, once I am aware and I am in complete control of my emotions, then I am able to regulate my emotions in the way I want. So this is what my lecture is going to be about, emotion regulation. Okay, so as I said, emotion regulation is being able to manage and control your emotions to the way you want it to be. When I say that, I can manipulate my emotions as well. It automatically switches over, or it automatically opens the door for me that there is no need that, or there is definitely not a compulsion that I regulate my emotions only for positive means. There might be possible that people can manipulate their own emotions and the emotions in others for other results, for negative purposes as well. And this is what I'm going to discuss today with one character taken from the famous Indian epic, the Mahabharata. Now, why have I chosen the Mahabharata is because everybody knows about it. You cannot find a person in India who is not aware of the Mahabharata or the characters in the Mahabharata. At least the basic knowledge is there. Across faiths, across cultures, you ask anybody, even a person of a different faith, Islam or Christianity or any faith, people in India will definitely be aware of the characters in Mahabharata. They know who they are. So with this basic knowledge, it's easy for me to discuss this emotion regulation and to establish the fact that emotional intelligence can be used for negative purposes as well. If you want me to give a proper topic, or if you want me to label this particular lecture, then I would call it as emotion regulation or emotional insensitivity, because that's what I'm going to speak about. I feel like emotion regulation can sometimes slide over to emotional insensitivity, and this particular aspect I'm going to discuss with Yudhishthira in mind. I think every one of you are aware of Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava prince. I'm not going to be in detail of Mahabharata because, as I said, every one of us are aware, we at least have a basic knowledge of the storyline of the plot line of the Mahabharata, the characters in the Mahabharata. So straight away I'm going on to analyze and discuss Yudhishthira. We're all aware of Yudhishthira, right? The minute we say Yudhishthira, what comes to our mind? Dharma personified. Okay? So he is Dharmaputra, a person who is the son of Dharma himself. So whatever he does is definitely the most right thing. I mean, nobody can find nobody can find fault with him. He follows Dharma to the T. This is what we know of Yudhishthira. This is the superficial knowledge that we have. I mean, that this is what has been established, and this is that has been discussed over the years. But as we read the Mahabharata in detail, we come across certain places where it leaves a big question mark. Like for me, it happened. When I was reading the Mahabharata, I too started reading the Mahabharata with Yudhishthira as Dharma personified. You cannot find any fault with him at all. All his decisions were based on Dharma. So this is the idea, or this is the notion that I had when I started reading Mahabharata. I was surprised, in fact I was shocked in certain places when you see that a person of Yudhishthira's caliber can take decisions which are most insensitive ones. That's funny, right? But then it is definitely shocking, but then I'll give you a few instances. First one, I would like to establish that Yudhishthira is a person of grit and determination. He is a person of great emotional intelligence. He knew how to control his own emotions. At any given point, even the most challenging instances, he never lost his cool. Two instances I would like to quote. One is the Yaksha Prashna, and the other one is the conversation he has with Nahusha. The first one, the Yaksha Prashna, is it's a very dicey situation where he finds all his four brothers dead. And the Yaksha shoots questions on the most intriguing questions on Dharma, and Yudhishthira is able to stand on his feet very firmly on the ground and give answers to the Yaksha's questions. Remember, imagine this scenario where you have all the four brothers dead. You are moving around in the forest without a place to go. You have the Kauravas behind you, anytime trying to capture you. And this is the situation. And he, a person who rests heavily on the prowess of all his four brothers, find him dead. But in spite of that, he is able to keep his cool and answer the questions of the Yaksha. So this establishes that he is a person of good. And the second instance also, where Nahusha, a king who is being cursed to become a snake, coils around Bhima. Bhima is supposed to have the strength of 1,000 elephants. Even he is unable to get out of the grip of Nahusha. This is the situation, and again, Yudhishthira is able to converse with Nahusha, give him answers for all those questions that he shoots at him, and able to rescue him. So these two situations very clearly tell us that he is a person who completely has his emotions in check. Now that is a good sign. Definitely an emotional intelligence or emotional control is a very good characteristic in any person. But then when it crosses the line, that is what I'm going to discuss today. Especially one instance. There are several instances, but then I would like to discuss on one instance which actually left a very deep mark in me. Actually, it made a lot of difference to me. Actually, it changed my perspective of on Yudhishthira's character. We all know about the game of dice, right? Duryodhana invites Yudhishthira for the game of dice, and he wants to capture the kingdom without going for a war, because he knows that if he goes for a war, there is no chance of him defeating Arjuna and Bhima. So he goes for the easy way, he goes for the game of dice. And very cleverly, he asks his uncle Sakuni to play for him as well. So these are the details that we know. Yudhishthira has a weakness for game of dice. He has this weakness. He feels that he also is afraid. He also does not want, he also wants to avoid war, and that is the reason why he accepts Duryodhana's challenge. So the platform is set and the game of dice starts. As they start rolling the dice, we know that Yudhishthira is not a good player at all, and definitely there is no comparison to him across Shakuni, so he keeps losing all his stakes. One by one, he stakes everything, and there comes a stage where he has to stake himself, stake his own brothers, and most shamefully, his wife. This shameful act of staking his own wife leaves everybody aghast. Obviously, such an action coming from a person like Yudhishthira. Even as he's losing his stakes, people are not very happy about it. Of course, his own decision of going for the game of dice is also not welcomed by many people. Be it his own brothers or be it his well-wishers, anybody stops him from taking this challenge of the game of dice. But then Yudhishthira, I think probably that was one of his weakness as well. In spite of the fact that he was a person who was, as his own name suggests, he says like Yudhishthira. Sthira means constant, a person of grit and determination. So in spite of all these things, he has a weakness. He has this particular weakness of, in spite of being a Kshatriya, he has these qualities of a Brahmana. He is a peace-loving person. So to have peace, to avoid war, he would go to any extent. And this was one of his weaknesses, and this is what leads him to accept the challenge of Duryodhana in spite of knowing that he is not good enough, and Duryodhana will definitely resort to any kinds of any means to defeat him. So in spite of all this knowledge, he is unable to control himself, and that is one of his weaknesses. Because earlier, as I was saying, like he is a person of great emotional intelligence. But this tells us like even a great person, any kind of a person, will definitely have a weakness, and this was one of his weaknesses. And the second one was his fear. We'll come to that later on. Now coming back to the game of dice, as he stakes Draupadi, people are aghast. People are completely against him. If anybody else would have done it, if Duryodhana had done it, if Dushasana had done it, people would not have been so shocked about this. People would not have been this unhappy or hurt or upset. Because it came from Yudhishthira, people were completely taken aback. How could Yudhishthira do this? But then that's what happens. History tells us, Mahabharata tells us that he did stake his own wife and he loses them. Very sad. Now once he loses Draupadi, Draupadi is supposed to be, then he loses, that is the end. end of the game, he loses everything. He has nothing in his possession. And Duryodhana, of course, smirks at him, asks him to remove all his upper garments. All the five brothers are asked to remove their upper garments, which is supposed to be the mark of slavery. And what comes next? He asks Draupadi to be brought to the court. Now, this is the instance where I am trying to tell you, like, emotion regulation can move on to emotion sensitivity. Now, please recollect yourself what I spoke about emotion regulation. Emotion regulation is where you have complete control over your emotions and you manage it to the best use. And when I said that, I also told you that it can be used positively and negatively. And this is a place where emotion regulation in Yudhishthira slides over to emotional insensitivity. Now let's look at the instance. We all know, every one of the common knowledge is that Draupadi is dragged into the court by Dushashana and she is destroyed. But then what happens in between is the most important thing. When Duryodhana calls the messenger and tells the messenger to go and drag Draupadi to the to the assembly, quietly Yudhishthira calls the messenger and tells him he knows that Draupadi was menstruating. He knew the situation in which Draupadi was. With complete awareness, with full knowledge of what he was doing, he calls the messenger aside and says, ask her to come the way she is. This is what he says, because he knew he was completely manipulating the entire situation. This one sentence makes a lot of difference. He does not, as people believe, he does not remain quiet. He does not stand with his head down in shame. In fact, he takes the situation in his hand. We all know that we all think that Duryodhana was the person who had everything in control because he won the game of dice. But unfortunately, it is Yudhishthira who is in control in spite of the fact he loses the game of dice. In one masterly stroke, he just turns all the negative impression that he has from the people to a positive one. So when he asked Draupadi to come to the court of law, the way in which she was, he knew that she was menstruating, he knew that she was in a single garment. In spite of the fact, he very clearly sends a message, ask her to come the way she is. And that's how she is dragged into the court. And what happens, we know. The most disgraceful and the shameful act of disrobing Draupadi and Krishna coming and helping her. But in all this, what we see is Yudhishthira very cleverly playing. All along, people are very, very unhappy. People are upset with him. In fact, people start hating him for such a dastardly act of taking his own brothers and his wife. But what happens afterwards, when he makes Draupadi to come to the court of law the way she is, and when he allows Duryodhana to go to the extent of even disrobing her, what do we call it? The people, every one of them, they turn towards Yudhishthira. They become favorable towards Yudhishthira. So with one masterly act, he turns the entire situation. But the question is, he's completely in control. He does not falter. He does not waver. He does not feel bad that whatever he has done, it does not affect him in any way. That's another thing we need to look at. All his brothers are completely upset with him. In fact, Bhima wants to go and crush him, but then, of course, Arjuna resists everybody. But in spite of the fact that he has done such a shameful act, there is no sense of shame or anything with him. He keeps his cool even in that situation. And what more, he just converts the entire situation to his favor. Now, this is what I feel emotion regulation can sometimes lead to emotional insensitivity. Now, to reiterate my fact, I'll just go on to one more instance which happens when the Pandavas are incognito. The rule goes like, or the direction is such that they have to spend 12 years in the forest, and the 13th year they should be incognito. That they should not be identified by anybody. If they are identified by anybody, then again the cycle begins. 12 years in forest and one more year incognito. So this is the 13th year and it's almost going to finish. They go and stay in Kichaka's palace. Now Now, when this is happening, they all go in, of course, in disguise. Yudhishthira goes as Kankana, who is a person who plays the game of dice or who teaches the game of dice, and Bhima works in the kitchens. Draupadi goes as the queen's maid. Now, when this is going on, the queen's brother Kichaka is a tyrant, and he sets his eyes on Draupadi. He wants her, and nobody has the courage to stop Kichaka because it's on Kichaka's strength that the entire kingdom runs. The king is only a rubber stamp, if I can say that. So Kichaka's strength is what keeps the kingdom going, and nobody dares to go against Kichaka. So whatever his wishes are, it has to be honored. So when he sends word to the queen, to his sister, that Draupadi has to be sent to his chambers, the queen obliges. In spite of knowing that it cannot, in spite of knowing what a shameful act it is, the queen obliges, and Draupadi is sent to Kichaka's chambers. When Draupadi goes there and she understands that Kichaka's actual intentions, she runs away from that place and she runs in full view of the court. She runs to the court actually, where the king is seated, with all his ministers. And Yudhishthira is also there playing a game of dice with the king. So this is the situation and this is the scenario, and Draupadi runs from Kichaka, away from Kichaka, and runs to the court. Of course, nobody says anything against her, anything against what is happening. Kichaka drags her to the court, hits her, he kicks her, drags her by the hair, and does every shameful act. But sadly, Yudhishthira does not react at all. Because for him, if he reacts, and what more, he does not allow Bhima also not to react. He stops Bhima from doing anything, from going and fighting Kichaka or rescuing Draupadi. He just remains a mute spectator to whatever happens to Draupadi, and because if he is going to reveal himself, if Bhima is going to go and fight against Kichaka, then they are going to come out of there. The people will know who they actually are. Because the only person who can defeat Kichaka is Bhima. So if Bhima takes on Kichaka, then immediately people will know that they are actually Pandavas and not servants. So to avoid this, to avoid going into the forest for another 12 years and one more year of incognito, to avoid all these things, he remains a mute spectator and he allows Draupadi to go through those most horrible acts that happens to her. So this is another instance where we find that emotion regulation can in fact go on to emotional insensitivity as well. So I have quoted two instances. There's one more instance if you want me to, make it even more stronger, make my case even more stronger. But this is a place, this instance what I am speaking about has emotion regulation, emotional sensitivity, and it has a very strong emotional background as well. Now that's a very dicey situation. Now that's a very confusing if you feel that way. But it is because human mind is such that you cannot very clearly say like, now this is all I'm feeling. There are several emotions that we are going through. Some that we are able to manage, some that we are unable to do. So it's a very, very complex thing, and we cannot very channelize and very clearly cut across and say that this is what is happening, this cannot happen. So this particular instance is one such. As the Pandavas are in the forest, what happens is, as Draupadi is like going around doing her work, or probably she's taking a stroll, there's a person called Jayadratha. He's actually the brother-in-law of Duryodhana, Duryodhana's sister's husband. He comes that way, finds Draupadi there, and takes her, kidnaps her, runs away with her. In fact, of course, he tries to molest her as well. When Pandavas are aware of this, when they come to know about this, Arjuna and Bhima immediately run to her rescue, defeat Jayadratha and bring back Draupadi. They capture Jayadratha as well, and they want to kill him, but then the brothers are very, very loyal to the eldest brother. They do not want to do anything without the eldest brother's permission. So they bring Jayadratha to Yudhishthira. Sadly, what happens? Again, Yudhishthira says, don't do Sadly, Yudhishthira refuses to take any action. He refuses to comply with his brothers who are completely aghast with the entire happening, because like how could Yudhishthira take such a decision of letting someone free when he has tried to molest his wife? They're unable to understand the psyche or the how Yudhishthira thinks. But then like Yudhishthira gives an explanation like Jayadratha is after all the sister's husband. Maybe they're not own sister, but Duryodhana's sister is their sister as well. He says that our sister's husband cannot be harmed, then what happens to our sister? And so he allows, or he makes Jayadratha to be left free. Now, when we look at this, the question definitely arises like, if when a person is able to empathize with the sister, why not is he able to empathize with his own brothers or with his own wife's plight? So this is a question which is the foremost in our minds, and the obvious conclusion is definitely he is emotionally insensitive. Maybe he is aware, we cannot call him that, it's not that he is not aware of the emotions, he is completely aware of what is happening, but in spite of all those things, he takes this decision. There might be several reasons for this decision, but whatever the reasons are, we cannot accept what he decides on. In fact, on a later stage, because he lets off Jayadratha now, on a later stage on the battlefront, Jayadratha is the one who kills Arjuna's son Abhimanyu. So it has its own repercussions, and people are not, his own brothers are not very happy with him as well. But then luck was on his side. He was fortunate enough to have loyal brothers and a wife who was able to put up with all these idiosyncrasies, and that is why I feel like things went on smoothly. Even if one person had revolted or gone against his decisions, then I do not know what would have been Yudhishthira's position. Because the brothers completely understood that they had to be united, and only then can they defeat Duryodhana, the Kauravas, and that is the reason why they keep quiet with whatever Yudhishthira's decision is. So all these instances that I have discussed here goes on to tell us that Yudhishthira is a person who is able to control his emotions to the perfect. Okay, so he is completely able to manage his emotions. But then the big question mark is: this managing of emotions, is it emotion regulation or is it emotion